Hey there, guys. Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of the Rambling Producer Podcast, where we talk your ear off about the industry.
Let me put your brain without mid-brain. Cutting out frequencies. It's the music game.
So, guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 5. Last episode, we talked about releasing your first song and the importance of collaborations. I also went back and touched on going back and basically choosing your name, since I missed that in the second episode involving the plan. So at this point, you have made a plan with me in episode 2. Well, you've got to know me in episode 1, and then you made a plan with me episode 2 for your goals for the next 12 months. Hopefully you've got that all hashed out. Episode 3 and 4 touched on your first song and then releasing your first song. I did mention to try to market yourself a little bit. I know we haven't gone through the marketing thing, how to do it perfectly, but just basically just saying, hey, check out my newest release with a link to it, and just boosting that post on Facebook or Instagram, or if you're on SoundCloud, if you prefer, you can do that as well. But yeah, hopefully by now you've done those couple of steps. You've got a song out, you've boosted it with at least $10 to $20. You should be starting to get a little bit of a following. You should have gotten a few people to listen to your music at least for that first song. Now, what you want to do is just don't stop creating music. So try to set up, and what we're going to talk about is setting up a schedule. In this episode, we're going to be elaborating a little bit more on that, because the schedule means a lot more than just how often you're going to release music and how often you're going to post, and a lot of things are involved in this schedule you need to create, because you need to get yourself into a routine. This is a business. You need to show up for work every day. Your music is a business. That's why it's called music business. If you want to just remain casual, playing, just for fun without making any money, then you can ignore most of this, honestly, because this is all about me trying to get you to get what you love and turn it into something that you can make money off of. I teach this one-on-one in my artist development programs. I also do just individual lessons for people who don't want to go through the whole program and get managed by me directly. But I also offer this so you can do it all yourself without having to have those one-on-one lessons, without trying to schedule with me and do all that. So that if you want to have that free resource to work with me, basically, you're listening to what I'm telling you and everything. This is your free resource. You're here. So basically, what you want to do now that you've released your first song, look at that first song and be like, all right, how long did that take me, start to finish? Can I do it quicker? Or maybe that was a good amount of time, or maybe I rushed that. If you rushed it, give yourself more time. Try to figure out a schedule that's going to work for you. First things first is figure out how often can you release a song, and try to stick to that as closely as you possibly can, for the sake of your fans. Even if you only have 5 fans right now, or 0, pretend like you have at least 1 if you have 0. But I hope you have at least like a handful. I hope if you hit more than that, if you hit like 100, 200, 1,000, cool. At the end of the day, though, you need to set a schedule, even if it's just for 1 fan, because they're going to appreciate that. Consistency is key for this, to keep them sticking around. So figure out, some people release a song a day, which is crazy. I couldn't do that. Some people do a song a week. I struggle to even do something like that, so I don't do that. I release this podcast every 2 weeks, for example, because I know I probably couldn't do it every single week. Figure out a good schedule for yourself. Some people do a song a month. Maybe it's a song every 2 months. Maybe it's a song every 3 months. Whatever is going to work in consistency for you, and you're going to be able to keep up on, do it for now. You can always change the schedule later, but the important thing is to have that schedule in place. So figure that out first and stick to it. Write as many songs as you can, just like you've been doing. Take time out of your day to write. 10,000 hour theory, you just do it. And then pick the best ones and make those your songs, produce them, record them, however way possible, how. If you're just pulling up your phone, making phone recordings right now and posting up on SoundCloud, that's fine. We're going to get more into the, professional recording and doing that side yourself more in future episodes as well. I'm going to be breaking down everything more so. These first sets of, general things just to kind of kickstart your career. These first couple episodes are all about kickstarting your career, doing the things you need to do now to get your career started, and just get that momentum building, because you could be building a fan base now and then learning the more things that aren't necessarily as important as just creating the product, releasing it, and getting people to listen to it. There are other things that you're going to learn in this podcast that will just help you get more professional and more professional and more professional. And that's my goal, is to get you started and then build on that professionalism and then get you really where you ideally want to be. So right now, even if you're doing phone recordings, you're just using maybe got a pair of headphones with the OK thing, and you've created everything in Walkband or GarageBand or something like that, and then you've gone in and sung over it, and that's your song. Perfect. You're releasing that on SoundCloud right now. Perfect. Maybe you're releasing it everywhere. I personally, I'm really more on the side of trying to make sure everything's perfect, but I'm also an audio engineer myself, so I always like to make sure everything's produced if I'm going to put it out on Spotify and stuff. But I know a lot of people who do GarageBand level recordings, they still put it out on Spotify and stuff. If you're doing that, awesome. If that's what resonates with you. I personally try to stray away from doing that, so if I'm going to do a phone recording demo type of thing, I would stick to SoundCloud and stuff. I wouldn't do paid distribution until I can get it professionally done. But if you were doing it, then sweet. Maybe you've already figured out who you want to use. CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid. I think there's a new one out there called Muse. There's a bunch of different ones. I personally use CD Baby. I like the one-time payment and then not have to worry about it. They get criticism sometimes, and sometimes people give criticism to the other ones, so that there's a whole battle of which one's the best. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, whatever fits you. Stick with it. So that schedule you need to create, it's not just the creating of your songs, though. Maybe stick out, create one song a month. I'm going to use that as an example. Now, maybe yours is going to be different. Maybe it's more than that. But you need to understand you need to juggle other things with it, too. So if you're ever planning on playing live, which I totally suggest, even if you want to be mostly a recording artist, still play some live things. Open mics, coffee shop gigs, every once in a while. At least be able to perform them. Or maybe you're just going to do live streams. Either way, I suggest having those, because that's another revenue stream, especially when you get into the merchandise, and it's easier to make merchandise sales in person than online, although there's always that niche, so maybe not doing that's also your niche. It depends on, again, what you want your career to look like. Look at, what do I want my career to look like if I was, had the perfect career right now? What would it look like for me? So some people don't like playing live, but they like creating music, and that's okay. So, but if you're planning on playing live, set up a time, maybe it's just one day a week, where you set out a certain amount of time, same place, every day of the week, and you practice your songs, especially that first song. The second you create that first song, start practicing it. Make sure you can play it. Maybe it's not perfect right now, but start hashing out those details. And then on the other days, maybe you're writing and doing your other things that we're going to add onto the schedule and creating that song, that next song. But by the time that next song comes, you should be able to play this song. And then when you get that, then you can start practicing both songs, almost like building up a set. And either you alternate or maybe you practice them both on the same day, depending on how much time you're giving yourself to practice. Even 15 minutes of practice, you can practice that song 3 times over if it's an average 3-minute song, along with the in-between quirky little adjustments and things before you play it again. That's 3 times that you got to play through it and really be like, oh man, where did I mess up? With that practice, what you want to do, I'm going to elaborate on that right now, because I think it's important to cover it now, because it's not a big topic. It's not something that's going to be a long, drawn-out topic. With recording, if you've got a smartphone or even a laptop with a webcam, videotape yourself when you practice. I don't care if it's for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. Videotape yourself, because then you can go back and watch the videotape later, and you can go, oh man, I should have done this better there. But while you're playing, you're in that zone. You don't always catch the mistakes, and you don't always catch the things you could have done better. So it's better to just kind of practice and do what you can during, but then go back and look at that video and go, all right, well, play the song really well, but how could it be more entertaining for me? Movements that I could have done, or maybe I could have just went louder with this one part or something and drew my head back with a little bit of emotion, something like that, to just be able to just connect with the audience and get them to be like, oh man, that was cool. Anything that you think would be entertaining to you is probably going to be entertaining to somebody else too, that you could have done. And if you can incorporate that, awesome. So set out a time every week to do that, just like how you should set out time for writing. So initially I said just write when your inspiration comes, just write when you can write for that first song. But now that you've got that first song underneath your belt, that's telling me that you've probably written several songs by now and chosen the best one for that first song. So you're able to go and say, all right, now I've gotten a lot of the muddy water out. Now I need to be consistent so that I can consistently let more muddy water out until I get that clear water. And if you don't understand that reference, that means you probably didn't listen to the songwriting episode. But basically, the faucet idea is you turn on a faucet for the first time. Songwriting is your faucet. A lot of it's going to be really crappy water flowing out at first, and eventually you'll get some clear water once it clears up, and then spurts of more crappy water, and then clear water. And those clear waters are the good songs, and the crappy water is, you guessed it, the crappy songs that you're going to have to write and get out of your system. And maybe there'll be good elements in them that you can steal for better songs later. You never know. But yeah, just set up a schedule now for writing too. Maybe it's something as simple as, hey, I'm going to wake up every morning at, around this time, an hour before work, or an hour before I have to leave for work. I mean, don't wake up an hour before work unless you work at home. Or you work like 2 minutes away, which would be impressive. You must be living right next to your work. But, an hour before you have to leave for work, spend that hour, sip on a cup of coffee if you're a coffee drinker, write. Try not to spill the coffee on the notebook if you're writing on a notebook, or like an iPad or anything if you're writing on one of those too. But just write maybe for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. Just, I think we talked about morning pages in a previous episode, but if not, you can always look that up. It's kind of like a diary, but not really, not as girly. Basically, you're writing down just any thoughts that come to you in the morning every time you wake up, and you could just write down anything. You could be like, hey, I woke up angry this morning about, the COVID stuff going on during the making of this episode, or something, or something. You could be angry about anything, or you could be happy about anything, or you could be anything. Just whatever you're thinking, or maybe you're writing your dream you just had that night. Anything. Just write in the morning and get into that groove of that schedule, like a morning routine. That'll really help your writing and your flow of it and everything, because that's going to allow you to go, all right, these are my thoughts, how can I turn that into a song? Or maybe you'll just draw inspiration from it, or maybe you'll just be a song right as soon as you start writing. You're just writing songs every morning. That'd be really cool too. However it comes out of you, basically, make that a routine. Try to get yourself in the mindset of doing this. And if you're having trouble keeping a routine, just remember this: if you can do it for, I think it was 3 or 4 days straight, you can do it for 3 weeks straight. If you do it for 3 weeks straight, you can do it. You can just keep doing it. Because once you hit that 3-week marker, your brain's like, oh, this is my normal routine, I gotta keep going. But if you can do it for 3 days straight, that means you're able to continue it. Your brain's able to. It's not something that your brain's fighting. It might be you procrastinating it, but your actual brain's like, okay with the routine. It's not, causing you fatigue or something. Also know your limits. Don't make a schedule that you can't keep. If you don't think you can keep it, don't make that schedule. Don't try to keep a schedule that you can't keep. Just make a schedule, or change the schedule to something you can keep. So, practice, I say it at least once a week, but maybe you practice more than that. Write every morning. Maybe it's not every morning that you can do it. Maybe you're just only going to write on every Wednesday or something. Or the weekends. Just whatever you can keep up with. Make that a routine for you. Make that a schedule, because that's going to really help. So, now that you've released this song, now you got to start thinking about your image. I know it sounds like a lot since we already talked about a plan, and now you're thinking, oh man, I gotta make a plan and an image? Well, image doesn't mean like logo or anything like that. I mean, yes, if you can figure that out now, that'd be awesome. If you could figure that out back on in your plan time, that would have been awesome. Try to do something professional, but it doesn't need to be like made by a professional. Just do something that isn't, like a 5-year-old drew it. Unless that's your style, it could be cool, I guess. But just know what resonates with you. Know what's your style. Like for me, I stick to really black and white, sophisticated stuff. Black, white, gray base colors. It's a sophisticated feel, but I sprinkle in some charisma too by layering colors sometimes. So maybe the white with the black inside of it makes it pop out a lot. Like it's charismatic, but it's also that sophisticated color scheme. And you can actually look up colors in there, colors with logos and their like emotions and things and what goes with them. And that's actually something you could Google if you wanted. But basically, whatever resonates with you, stick with that. And that could be your logo. It could just be a picture of you with your name like photoshopped in. That's fine too. You don't need to super professional photos, but try to get them to look good. Like I said, same thing with what I was talking about with the logo. Like it doesn't have to be professionally done, but try to get them to look good. Don't have something where I can't see your face because your photo's so blurry. Most smartphones have a camera that's good enough with the rear camera anyways. It's good enough nowadays to where you can get a pretty nice photo, have a friend take it instead, not a selfie. Again, unless that's your style. Maybe you're making a new brand that is all about selfies. Maybe you're all about selfies, and so maybe a lot of your stuff selfies. That's okay, but if you're gonna do that, build it around that. You don't want people to think that, oh, he's just halving it. Try not to swear in a podcast, but half-aing it, if you know what I mean. Make sure you're serious about this. And then you want to go and start looking at making your next song after that. So keep this up until you have like 5 songs. And I know that probably sounds like a long road, but it's not. It'll go by quickly. It'll go by very quickly. Even if you're doing a song a month, it'll feel like it's going by quickly because by then you're going to be in this routine and things are going to be going very, very well. Hit at least 5 songs and then go out and try to play some open mics. Learn some covers. Play some open mics and go out there and just kind of just talk to people. At the end of the open mic, if maybe it's a bar or a coffee shop, talk to people. Chances are they'll talk to you right off the bat. That's what happened to me when I started doing that. There's always at least one person that will be like, oh man, that was cool, and start talking to you. It's okay if you're awkward. It's okay if you're not used to it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but connect with them. That's your opportunity to connect with them. Tell them about you. Tell them about your music and what got you into music, your story. Talk to them on a personal level. Like, not super personal, obviously, if it's a stranger, but talk to them, about your personal level on your music side. What inspired that one song you wrote? Like, oh yeah, man, that second song I wrote that second song I played, I wrote that one. And that was all about this, and that's really a story that really got me into music too, because I just felt like I could express myself, and whatever you talk about, show them that you're passionate about it, and show them that you care about them as a customer or as a fan. Their fans are more than just customers, so you want to have that connection. Customers are like, if I think about myself in McDonald's, I don't care about the guy who walks in and orders a Big Mac. I might not even remember his name. Some people do, and that's okay. Those are really cool. That's how they get their regulars, But think about every single fan is like that. You have to know them. Now, maybe you don't remember every single one perfectly, but when you're there, the connection needs to feel genuine. And you need to have that connection with them, because that's how you're going to have what's called true fans. Those are the people that are going to actually follow your career to a T. They're not the occasional person that might chime in every once in a while. You want that person who's going to be there with you down your career from when you started. Maybe they're there when you get down the road and you're selling out stadiums, That's somebody that's going to follow you throughout your career if you can have a genuine connection with them and keep that connection. Same thing when you're creating your posts, Facebook, Instagram. I know YouTube does like a weird posting thing now. I'm not 100% sure how that works yet. I'm still experimenting with that. But they do that now too, where you can actually do posts onto a wall of some form. It's very interesting. But, make sure you know that's, you're making a genuine connection in that, showing people more than just your music, show them about you. People like to know you and pick apart your life and know, little things. And I know it may sound weird, but it's the same thing. Like vloggers do the same thing. That's how they make good, money with the YouTube partnerships, with the ads and stuff. You think about famous vloggers on YouTube. Same thing. It's just showing people parts of their lives, and people really connect with that. So find a way that you can really connect with your audience and keep that up, but also keep releasing your music, keep practicing your music. And if you go out and go to those coffee shops, maybe they'll go, oh, what was your artist name again? And then they'll get on their phone really quick. Everybody has a smartphone in their pocket nowadays, right? They can get on it right there in front of you and like your page, follow you, and then they'll see all your updates in the future. You're gaining people organically without the ads. And those people are going to share with other people. Word of mouth is the most powerful marketing. So going out to those coffee shop places, even if you can't afford the $10 to $20 in those marketing campaigns I was talking about before, which they are important, but if you can't do it right now, go to those coffee shops and do that. Go to the bars, go to whatever you can for those open mics, and go and play a couple songs. I highly suggest, though, to play at least one cover. If you're the kind of person that wants to play all original songs, that's fine, but play one cover. And if you're going to play one cover, make it your first song. I know that sounds weird, but make your first song a cover if you're going to play all originals. So, because that's going to draw people's attention. Oh man, I know this song. And then they're going to be listening to your next song. And if your next song's a really, really good song, you want to make your next song one of your strongest songs that you have out that, or at least that you have available to play there. And then fill in a couple songs, and then make your last song your other strongest song in this set, because you want people to be engaged at the beginning. Keep them engaged in between, but maybe the little bit weaker songs to be in between, just to be like, oh yeah, here's some other fun songs, but they may not be number one, but they're fun and they keep you here with me. And then the last song, make it like the best one and be like stuck in people's heads so they remember you. And then at the end, say, hey, I'm so and so. At the beginning, also say, hey, I'm so and so. Make sure that name's in there. Actually, usually people want to hear it 3 times. Well, they don't want to hear it 3 times. They might, but I mean, like, their brains want to hear it 3 times. That's why you hear advertisements always say the contact information 3 times, or the brand name 3 times, or something like that. The rule of 3s. If you mention your name 3 times, so 1 at the beginning, 1 somewhere in the middle, and 1 at the end of the set, people are more likely to remember who you are. But yeah, make sure at those settings, you got 5 songs, man. You can play 1 cover and 5 originals. That's okay. That's 6 songs. That's a pretty good set for a coffee shop setting, and then you hand it off to the next guy. Maybe they're only going to let you play 1 or 2 songs. Make the most of it. Make the most of it. And make sure you perform those like the most entertaining way you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Those imperfections are why people love shows. But at the same time, make it fun. If you're having fun, they're probably having fun. And that's the most important part about playing live. So really start hashing out a schedule, like I mentioned before, and starting to practice your live setting, your live shows, your live performances, And then also keep creating songs. Try to build up to about 5 songs before you think about doing anything like an EP or a debut album or any album of anything like that, because those 5 songs are really going to be your starting point and your foundation, and you want to make sure those 5 songs are the sound that you want. Because if you're not quite there with those 5 songs, then don't be releasing a debut anything, because a debut shows, hey, this is my starting point, this is my sound, I'm only going to build on it from here. But you don't want to build on a sound that you don't resonate with. So if you decide to change your sound all of a sudden, well, then your debut becomes pointless, because now it's not a debut. Now you're re-debuting, basically. Even if you don't name it a second debut, it's basically a second debut if you change your sound altogether. Now, you could add other elements down the line. You could do all sorts of things that change, but not completely 180, So make sure you're ready for something like that. But when you are, then make sure when you do that EP, that album, whatever else, anything more than a single, make sure that is the one that you start professionally recording. Because people are going to think, he's finally starting to make it a little bit. We're gonna have to jump on this bandwagon. But if they say that and then they listen to something that sounds phone recording, then they might feel a little sketched out. So create singles. Even if you end up with like 15 singles before you have any albums, that's okay. That's 15 songs. You can go open for a bunch of bands, make some money, and once you're making that money, then you can pay for that to record, maybe it's just a 3-song EP. That could be your debut EP. 3 songs, that's not much, man. If you were in the area that I live in right now, and you wanted to record 3 songs with, let's just say my studio, Signal Studios, Adrian, Michigan right now. I don't know, you can look it up on Google. If it's there, probably still here and open. But who knows, maybe I won't be in Adrian anymore at some point. But right now I'm in Adrian, Michigan. I'm here to help Adrian, Michigan, and Lenawee County and all the surrounding places. Anybody who wants to travel all the way out here to record with me, awesome. But, with me, for example, you come and record 3 songs. Oh yeah, so it's $150 for a full 6-hour day with me. And so, usually a song, if you're a solo artist, we can usually hash that out in a day. So I always tell people, a day per song, figure that, and we'll get that all done. We'll get it done. We're pretty good at maintaining time. Sometimes you can get 2 or 3 songs out in one day, depending on the artist. I get rap artists come in there, they have a beat, all they gotta do is do vocals over it. Oh yeah, 2, maybe 2.5 hours. That's only because we do redos on the vocal takes several times, usually, just to get as many takes as we can, especially since a lot of the guys I work with like a lot of overdubs. Yeah, I mean, you could do it for cheaper, but I mean, think about it, $150 per day. If you want to give yourself plenty of time, like, you're giving yourself 18 hours to record everything. And it doesn't have to be all back to back. It could be one day this week, one day next week, one week the way after, one day the week after that. It could be anything like that, or you could even get quoted and it might come out cheaper, or whatever else. And you're looking at what, $450, $500 around about, and then you want to market that, right? So if you can build up a grand's not hard to make, guys. Open for a couple bands, sell a couple pieces of merchandise. If you have the merchandise, if you don't have merchandise, just open for them. Usually you get a cut of the proceeds of coming in the door. And even then, it adds up to at least like $100 usually for, small gigs. So that's perfect. I mean, $100, 10 shows, blam, $1,000. Use that money, reinvest it into yourself. So once you get to that point, though, and you want to save some money, you don't want to keep paying a studio to do all that work for you. That's when you can make a decision. You know what? I've gotten to my schedule. I've gotten my schedule set in my head, and I'm able to follow it now. So now what we can do, we start adding things to it. If you think you could handle adding things to it, start spending 1 day a week learning some production. There's a lot of free programs, free DAW programs out there that you can use to record yourself. Yeah, maybe you don't have a mic or an interface yet, but you can start learning how to use it, learn the layout, download the free program. Like Studio One has like an artist version or something like that. I think they have some form of free version. I know Pro Tools has a free version, Pro Tools First. You could start with that. And then you always upgrade later on or whatever else. But for right now, there's plenty of free ones out there that you can use that work perfectly fine. Start learning what compression is, what volume should you mix at. I mix at -18. Some people mix at -16, and some other places -12. Some other places. So, I mean, it could be any of those. Usually you want to mix quiet like that. I know that's really quiet. If you don't know what dB are, that's okay. If you start learning this stuff, you'll learn what dB is, but basically it's just the level of sound. When you listen to stuff on Spotify and stuff like that, it's usually somewhere around -6, -3, or just flat 0, somewhere between that area. But that's usually after being mastered, which brings things to volume, the correct volume, and brings out all the sweet sounds that are in there and final touch-ups and things. But mixing, usually it's a little bit quieter. And then mastering services, those are so easy nowadays. Cloudbounce, Lander, I prefer Cloudbounce. You also have eMastered. eMastered is a little bit more expensive than the other two, but some people like them better, you know. There are even companies you just send your files to, you pay a little bit more for it, but mastering services are cheap compared to people who record and mix you. So if you can just handle part of that, awesome. And maybe you learn about mastering too, that's all totally up to you, but start by learning that program, and then look at getting an audio interface, and then look at getting a microphone, you know. Since you're an artist, you are a business, you can even call places like Guitar Center. They have their GC Pro accounts, which allows you to get huge discounts on stuff like different gear. Not just recording gear. It could also be guitars, guitar picks, cables, amplifiers, anything they sell. Literally anything and everything they sell, you get a big discount on when you have a GC Pro account. All you gotta do is call them. You know, start researching into stuff like that. Minimize your costs that way. When you buy strings, you know, even if it takes $1 off, that's awesome. It'll save you that. So, research into that stuff, and maybe then looking at getting an audio interface, getting a mic. Start learning that stuff, and I'll actually go through later on, and we're going to learn how to do that over talk, so you're still going to have to do the technical side and get hands-on and learn, because I can't tell you exactly how to do it, because everybody does it different. It's an art. It's like nobody tells you the perfect way to paint. You can learn color theory, but at the end of the day, your style is your style. So, that's going to be something we'll talk about later on. Other episodes, I'm going to break down the production process completely. Episode by episode. Each effect by effect, recording everything. Now, I'm going to be talking through it, so it's not perfect. But if you're an auditory listener, or an auditory learner, I'm sorry about that. That was a hiccup on my end there of talking. Then it'll be good for you. You know, it's like listening to an audiobook, right? Only hopefully more fun than an audiobook. Ooh. Anyways. But yeah, maybe start learning that, and that'll cut down on some of your costs. But really just set a schedule for yourself. That's what's going to be important after your first song. And you need to stick to that schedule. And you need to start practicing playing those. Go out and make connections. Start building your fan base. Honestly, the ideal thing here would be to create a song, let's say one song a month, like what I said before. You know, once a week. Maybe they have an open mic every Friday or every other Friday, maybe. You know, maybe it's just once a month. But go to that, make real-life connections, and talk with the people, you know, not only through the microphone when you're up there, you know, before, maybe one somewhere in the middle and one at the end if you get to play at least like 5 or 6 songs, but also afterward. You know, if someone engages with you, then engage with them. Or maybe if someone, you know, someone was looking at you the whole time and smiling, like, and looks like they were enjoying your show, maybe walk up to them and be like, hey, did you enjoy the music I played for you guys, you know, and hear their honest feedback. Sometimes it won't be good, but you need to be able to take good and bad and take constructive criticism, because you're not perfect, nobody's perfect, you can always improve. And then also sometimes somebody will still give you bullcrap that isn't true too, but you know, take everything with a grain of salt too, but also take in the consideration that, you know, maybe they are right about something too. Maybe you could improve your entertaining side. You know, maybe there's something you could improve with, and if they say something valuable like that, then take it and consider it. Make those real life connections, and then also market your music online. Maybe it's only $10 to $20, like I said before. Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, whatever you want to use for ads. I use Facebook with my album I'm going to be releasing. I'm going to be Facebook and Instagram because I use both. They work really well in conjunction since they're both made by Mark Zuckerberg. And you can connect them directly, so anything you post on Instagram can get instantly shared to Facebook or your Facebook page. So you can always look up how to do that, but that makes things really easy, by the way. But yeah, no, I mean, make sure you do that, and you can just market that. Maybe it's just $10, $20, maybe it's $100 you can invest, whatever you can invest. Obviously save some for yourself too, because you have to, you know, pay for releases and also live. You know, new strings for guitars, new whatever instrument you play. Maybe you just need to buy some seltzer water for your voice. Who knows? Maybe you have to pay for beats. Whatever it is, you know, obviously don't spend every penny. Be smart with your money too. But whatever you can afford to do, budget it out. Be like, I'm going to spend this on marketing. Maybe you do some pre-marketing. Hey, a song's going to come out in this date. Okay, boost that post. Oh, and then when it comes out, hey, this song's out, why don't you go check it out? Boost that post. Do something like that. Be organic, be yourself in those posts, and people will start connecting. And then we'll get more into like marketing later and what works best for those ads. I'm only going to be going over like I said, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud type ads, those type of things. But yeah, those are going to be your best avenues. If you combine all those tools, your fan base will grow. It might be slow at first, or it might be fast. You might blow up, who knows? But it might be slow at first. If it's slow at first, that's okay. Because the best part about this, you don't want to build this fan base in a day. None of those are going to be organic connections. I mean, could you talk to like 40,000 people in one day? Probably not. It means they're not organic. So if day one you get 5 people, day 2 maybe it doubles that or whatever, or maybe it only goes up by 1, whatever. Maybe in a week you've managed to hit 1,000 and you're like, oh, this is so slow. It's building, but really slowly. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe in a week you only hit 100, or 50 or 20. You never know. I mean, whatever you're getting right now. And that's okay, because you want to make those organic connections with those people, If you're able to go on and be like, hey, thanks for the follow or something like that, awesome. If you get like 10 to 15 or even 20 people to follow you that day, and you have the time to like tag them all 20 of them, and go, hey, thanks for the follow, or message all of them, hey, thanks for the follow. That message 20 people only takes, you could probably do it in less than 20 minutes. So might as well take the time and make those real connections, right? Now, obviously, if you get like hundreds of people that add you the same day, you can't do that, which is understandable. But, you could post and say, hey, everybody, thanks for the follow. I just got like 100 new followers today. All of you that followed me, thank you. One post. It's just one post, and they'll all see it because they just followed you. Do something like that. You can thank them. But if you start getting tens of thousands instantly, those aren't going to be organic anymore. Most of the people aren't going to look at your page after they follow you. They probably followed you trying to get follows back, or unfortunately, you may have paid for those followers. Or maybe you did manage to get them organically somehow, but how are you going to connect with all 10,000 of them right now? You just gained instant 10,000 right now. How are you going to connect with every single one of them? Yeah, you could put a post thanking them all, but not all of them are going to see it because of how timelines work. And the number of them, they consider, a lot of those platforms consider harassment to post it, for them to share your post on over a certain number of those people's, timelines. And because of that, not all of them will see your post. But to grow it slowly, you can make organic connections with all those fans, or at least the majority of those fans. And as you get those people are going to stay with you. You're building a foundation of people who are true fans, who are going to stay with you. You only need 1,000 true fans to spend $100 on you a year to make $100,000 a year. That sounds pretty good, right? But if you got 10,000 people who won't spend a penny on you, guess how much you're going to make? A whopping $0. So you need to make true fans. Connections with those true fans, and people will follow them too, because those few stragglers, word of mouth, right? That'll come in, and maybe you haven't met them in person, but they heard you through their friend, and their friends seem to really like you, so now they really like you. Perfect. It's gonna be slow. Reality is, it's not instant fame. Yeah, going viral is a thing, but it's very unlikely. It's all about slow building a foundation, and that foundation will hold you up your entire career. You don't want viral. It's actually not even a good thing, honestly, because let's say you go viral with one song. Well, there's a chance you're a one-hit wonder, because people love that one song. You make a lot of money off it all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you drop off the face of the earth. Because those weren't true fans. They didn't know much about you. They just liked your one song. So if you get a bunch of people, 1,000 people, so you get 1,000 people in the first year to be able to connect with you, be true fans, and stick around. The next year, maybe get 1,000. 10 years later, you got 10,000 true fans. Heck yeah. They'll stick around. They'll keep coming to your shows. They'll keep buying your merch. They'll keep buying your songs. They'll keep connecting with you, commenting on your posts, liking your posts, sharing you to their friends, enjoying your music, listening to it on Spotify and other streaming services. They are your revenue, whether they're paying for something or not, because they could be listening to it on Spotify, and that's free, except for they listen to ads, which pays you. Not much, but it pays you. They're your revenue, and they're your support for your career, and there's no reason not to respect that of them, so you should respect them for that, and thank them for that, and say thank you guys for making this a possibility, because it's them that makes this possible for you to make your career a success. It takes you and them, because without one or the other, there's nothing there. So it's more like a partnership or relationship. And so you want to keep that going, so build that slowly, and that's okay. But keep pushing. Keep pushing yourself to do great things in the industry. And I believe that you will. So thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Next week, we're going to start getting into marketing even deeper. I'm going to go through the marketing of your music and how to get the best reach on social platforms. The coffee house side things is all you. I can't tell you how to do that. You just be yourself and make true connections. But we will eventually go over stage persona, obviously, a little more depth, but that's different a little bit. But as for the, how to structure out your Facebook campaign, we'll go through that a little bit more next episode. And I might throw in some other things in there. You'll just have to stay tuned and find out. But we're going to keep going forward with this. After we go through marketing, there's going to be more topics to come. More things to talk about. More ways to build your career and better your career. And don't forget, if you guys ever have any questions, if you guys ever have anything you need, like feedback, or maybe you want to work with me, anything like that, get in contact with me. I told you guys earlier at Signal Studios. We're over in Adrian, Michigan as of creating this episode. Or reach out to me. My name is Matt Eichenberg. Artist name is M.E. It's pronounced M.E., but it's the initials M.E. And I'm on Spotify, iTunes, all those different places, but you can find me on Facebook. Just message my Facebook page. And I personally answer it. Even if I were to sign to a label at some point here, I'd still prefer to personally answer it. So I would obviously convince the label to allow me to do that. Because truthfully, feedback and everything, that's something that I enjoy giving to people and helping people with. So if you guys have ever had any questions like that, just hunt me down. I'm serious. Hunt me down and ask me. I'm here. Hey there, guys. We're taking a short break here just to tell you a little bit about our sponsor for this episode. Our sponsor is actually Anchor, the people who host our podcast. We really love their service. The best part about their service is that it's free. They give you the creation tools and everything to edit your podcast right from your phone or right on the computer from their website, so you don't need anything else outside of that. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from it. You can get sponsorships to do that. It's just really just everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And let's say you want to edit some things. That's cool too. You can do that in your own editing software and just upload your file just as its own file. You can add your own background music. You can do everything. Make sure to try out Anchor by downloading the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Peace. Alright guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Rambling Producer Podcast, and I'll see you next episode. Thanks.
Let me get your brain without mid-brain. Cutting out frequencies, it's the